Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the +1 seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which whenever we play a unit, we will also spawn a 1-power copy of that unit in the same row, and that means we can get even more value out of some of our strongest cards. So let's go take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a Northern Realms deck that focuses on creating carryover of a few different varieties and also loads up on tons of boosts. The key thing that we're looking to do is by round 3 have a ton of either units in our deck and or units that are already boosted in our deck, so that Erland is a stronger card when he boosts all of our cards and uses his order ability to absorb all those deck boosts that we've gotten. So how do we do that? We can add more units into our deck using King Foltest, because whenever a bronze unit gets boosted on our turn, we will create a copy of that in our deck, and because we'll get 2 Foltests when we play him in this event, that means we'll be getting more cards in our deck twice as quickly as usual. Now we can keep those cards in our deck if we would like, and focus entirely on getting the value in anticipation of playing Erland, or if we're targeting the Dun Banners and or the Blue Stripes Commandos with those Foltest duplications, then that means that we can summon those cards out from our deck onto the board and get even more value in the current round. Granted, in this event, there tends to be a lot of units and not a lot of space to use those units, so it's not as much of a focus. In this case, probably going to have at least some of those cards still stay in our deck in anticipation of using Erland. So that's how we add more cards into our deck to make Erland more powerful, but we can also boost the cards that are already there in our deck so that Erland becomes more powerful. And the way we do that is by using cards like Dandelion, who will automatically boost a card in our deck if we have him boosted, or every other turn he'll be off cooldown and we can target a specific unit that we want to boost as well. We also have the Mutagenerator, which means that if we play cards in the range row, we will boost other cards in our deck with the same provision cost as the unit that we play, or we play those units in the melee row and we focus on getting all those boosts in the current round with the units that are on the board. Then we can also just get lots and lots of boosts in the current round from other sources as well. Most notably is probably Vysogota, because 2 copies of him means tons of charges to boost up our other units. Combine that with also Queen Meve, who, when she is inspired, so boosted, she will, after 3 turns, boost every unit on the board, and again, because there are so many units that you tend to have on the board in this event, that is worth a ton of value. Then, as we're looking at round 2/3, we can use Princess Pavetta to take whatever unit we created a bunch of copies of with Foltest, like, for example, those Dun Banners or the Blue Stripes Commandos, and if we have 5 or more of them in our graveyard, for example, we use Pavetta, get them back into our deck, and then that means in round 3, we can play them again and summon them all out again for lots of carryover value, or you just keep them in your deck. It means there's more units in your deck, so when you play Erland, he has more deck boosts, and when he uses his order ability, he gets a bigger boost. And outside of that, basically just playing your other units in the same style in round 2/3. And we also have some other bronze units like the Kerack Marine, which, because we have Devotion, is worth 4 points per copy, and because we spawned in an extra copy of this, it's actually surprisingly very solid point slam. And the Redanian Knight, which in the range row, getting an extra copy of that means 2 free points per turn, and eventually, if we get up to Grace 8, we get an extra boost as well. And when it comes to the cards you'd like to be the recipients of your boosts from things like Vysogota, then Tridam Infantry is your preferred target because he'll deal damage every time he does get those boosts. Otherwise, it could be something like the Meve, especially the one that you get spawned in, because the initial copy will be on her base power, so just 1 boost and she's inspired. The one that spawns in at 1 power, though, that one is considerably more difficult to get inspired. So that's another good target for your Vysogota boost if you have enough. And I almost forgot, maybe you have Erlands, or maybe you focus on Archgriffin as the recipient of your boosts in round 1, and that means that it goes back into your deck with all those boosts, so you can play it in round 2 or round 3, and you have a whole bunch of carryover from that. Or maybe you boost it in round 1, goes back into your deck with all those boosts, you don't draw into it, or maybe you're out of leader ability charges, so you can't get it back into your hand in round 3. That's okay. Erland will still absorb all those boosts as well. And that's overall the look of the deck. Combination of boosting stuff on the board and in our deck and adding more units to our deck to make for a stronger Erland finisher. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we have Amphibious Assault, and we have Donimir, but we don't have much else here. We don't even have our preferred cards to receive the copies, or create the copies of. I suppose we could make that happen with Amphibious Assault, though, and then we can get those out with Pavetta, or put them from our graveyard back into our deck in round 2 or 3. So I think we probably need to dump some of these guys. Erland is a great finisher for us, so that's awesome. I think we might get rid of the Elites. It would be a finisher, though, as could be the Kerack Marine. So what if we dump one of you? Okay, Dunbanner is one of those cards that we could potentially have be the unit that we create the copies of with Foltest. So that's not a bad thing, though we were thinking that might have been the goal with Amphibious Assault anyway. We don't have Foltest. We could, of course, use our lead ability to get him, and I think that's probably what we'll be looking to do here. So let's start with the Dunbanner. And then next turn, we will use our leader ability to get Foltest and probably throw Crystal Skull on one of them. Okay, it's Coral. I mean, given how they're Blaze of Glory, they're probably a discard-heavy deck. And, I mean, that is a solid combo. It is overkill damage in this case, but they do opt to do it nonetheless. I suppose maybe we will end up doing Amphibious Assault to get a preferred summoning target out here. So, technically speaking, we can still go with Pincer Maneuver into Foltest now if we really want to, and we would get the Volunteer on the board, and we would create copies of that in our deck. Does mean we're still making our deck full of more units, which makes Erland stronger, so it's not a bad thing. Obviously, it's not a preferred target for that, but I think we will still go for it here. And let us get rid of maybe the Redanian Elite is a little counterproductive, a little anti-synergistic with Foltest, because when you play it, it becomes the first unit that is boosted on that turn. And not whatever Foltest is next to, which is usually what we're going for. So again, we are technically going to create 2 Volunteers in our deck, which is not ideal, but we'll use Amphibious Assaults to get a preferable duplication target on our next turn, assuming that Foltest survives, which with 2 of them, I would hope that would still be the case. Yes, they have some damage. Ooh, plus leader ability. The question is, what does this give them? Because they will get damage with Coral. Both Corals, in fact. Ooh. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, I mean, we still have one Foltest. It is the one that has the Veil. I mean, might it even be worth throwing down a Kerack Marine here? And at least boosting up this Foltest to try to get it more out of removal range? I think that is probably worth doing, to be honest. I think it probably is. Once again, not really our preferred targets of card to be getting the copies of, but it does still mean we're getting more copies of cards in our deck, so we'll take it. Okay, Snowdrop. Oh, fortunately, no Iterans sighted yet, although who knows if that's what they're looking for here. It is, of course, a very, very potent and, frankly, game-breaking combo that you tend to see most often with Scoia'tael Guerrilla Tactics by a large quantity, large margin. And then after that, see some monsters, probably next most common, then after that, Skellige. So it's not out of the question that we'll see them do something like that, but at least at the moment, that's not yet the case. So if we are going to do Redanian Knight, we'd like to do that now. Because the earlier, the better. So I think we'll probably go that route. And maybe that'll distract them a little bit here. It means we are delaying, again, a little bit more the ideal targets of Foltest, but maybe that's next turn. Okay, Scald is more discard, which with 2 corals on the board does mean damage. Fortunately, it does not hit anything terribly important. But yeah, now they're going to go after the armor on this Redanian Elite. Not terribly surprising. Could create more of them with reinforcements if we'd like, or I think probably still Amphibious Assault on this turn to get the ideal target here to combine with Foltest. If you're wondering why I haven't played Donimir to help protect Foltest, you can, but he takes up more room, and the cards that we want to put next to Foltest are cards that get summoned onto the board, and that means real estate in this melee row is very important, and flooding it with things like Volunteers or even Donimir is not ideal. So we've still managed to get decent value out of Foltest here, or at least the one that has survived. So we can either go with the Commando, or we can go with the Dunbanner. We already have some Dunbanners in our graveyard, so I will go Dunbanner here, because that way we can use Pavetta on Dunbanner and maximize the value from it, whereas if we had gone with something like Blue Stripes Commando instead, then we'd have that choice we'd have to make of, is it worth it to go after getting one of them back or the other? And it could be kind of hard to choose. But now it's just all in on the Dunbanners. They've reset Foltest. He did get some boost from those Kerack Marines. We technically could reinforcements, get more Marines, and then reboost Foltest if we really wanted to. And honestly, I might do that. Yes, we could go, once again, more Dunbanners with reinforcements deliberately so that we get even more in our graveyard that we can bring back with Pavetta, so we have more units in our graveyard for round 3 to set up a bigger Erland. But I think in this case, it's probably overkill. So let's do this. And, I mean, seemed as though their plan was to weaken Foltest so that they could more easily remove him. So presumably that means that putting additional boosts on him is going to make it tougher for them to get rid of him. And so the reason why we're getting Dunbanners every turn is because we're boosting Dunbanner, which creates an additional copy of it every turn from Foltest. And then Dunbanner's ability summons out the other Dunbanners from our deck when it gets boosted. So it's basically a combo that automatically generates 4 points every turn. Actually, 5 points, technically, if you include the boost on this guy. So now they're realizing, hey, maybe I go after this Dunbanner instead. But at this point, it's probably a little bit too little too late. Okay, it's a Guara. Don't know what that's going to give them. Ooh, Wolfsbane. No idea who this is going to damage more. Apparently it's, well, going to destroy a lot of their cards. We actually got some space in our melee row, which fundamentally changes what I was going to do on this turn. I mean, we could pass, and even if we do, we're still going to get the 4 or 5 points every turn from this, so that's not bad. We did get our other Redanian Elite moved, or rather Redanian Knight moved from our range to our melee row, so this is no longer getting boosted, so it's not quite as good for us to pass now as it would have been before. But this is still pretty tempting. Otherwise, I was going to say we could go Pincer Maneuver and use that to get Radovid, get a refund on this order ability, and then get potentially 2 refunds on our next turn if we think the round is going to go long enough for that to be a factor. So we could consider that, but I think this is probably a pretty solid place for us to pass here, because this will continue doing its thing, this Foltest plus Dunbanner combo, for at least one more turn, then we'll run out of row space. And I mean, if you want to destroy other units in that melee row, that actually helps us. Oh, okay, well, what is Shoop going to do, though? Resilience? Resilience. Okay. Not too worried about that. Except Sons of Wanderers comes out as well. Okay, so they definitely have enough to pass us here, even after we get that other Dunbanner down. Okay, so they did play one more card than us, which means that theoretically, if they dry pass, you know, we'll still be on even cards going into round 3. They do, of course, have the 8 points of Carryover on Shoop Knight. So there's a chance they'll try to push here. If they do, we can... I mean, Pavetta's not good enough pacing-wise, so we'd probably end up going Amphibious Assault into perhaps a Redanian Elite. It's vulnerable to receiving damage, especially since they seem to be a fairly high damage deck. But tempo-wise, that is best option. Donimir is also technically enough. Kerack Marine is actually pretty solid tempo-wise as well. Might actually dump you. Mutagenerator. Carryover, yes, but it obviously, if tempo is the question, if they're pushing here, then that's not really what we're looking for in this case, and it looks like they are going to play. It's Rune Mage. Going the Northern Realms route here. Okay, and that is... The Banard Student is definitely a long-term play. So if we're reading into that, that would suggest they're trying to go for a pretty big round 2 push. And if we are preparing for that, then we certainly have the means to do it. It's just that if we try to set up long term, it means we're not going to match them tempo-wise. Like Mutagenerator, for example. Do we play that? Do we Pincer maneuver into Radovid? I think we might do that, though. I think that is actually preferable. Let's go Pincer, get Radovid. What is technically our worst option here? We'll probably Amphibious Assault into a Redanian Elite, so let's put that one back into our deck. We play Radovid. And so he refunds the Pincer maneuver charge we used to get him, and then if both of them stay alive, we get 2 more leader ability charges on our next turn. I imagine they might use this charge to get rid of the 1 power one. That should be pretty easy for them to remove. This one, possibly not. Yennefer Illusionist, that is worth a ton of damage. It is going to destroy the weaker Radovid. We will get this leader ability charge, though. That does help open up some additional options. And what we can do, if we absolutely need to, is we could go Pavetta to get back Dunbanner into our deck, and then use Amphibious Assault or Leader ability to get a Dunbanner, and then boost it with Kerack Marine, and that'll summon the rest of them out, and that is a row full of Dunbanners at that point. So that's an option. Not sure if we necessarily want to go that route. Although we need to kind of commit to that if we are planning to do it. So I think we will Pavetta now, because at some point in time, we want to make this happen. It's largely just a question of, are the Dunbanners coming out in this round, or are they coming out in round 3 instead? Okay, Burna for more discard. These students are building up in power, so, I mean, we don't really have much in the way of damage. So I think we're just going to have to let them do their thing. And on one hand, I would like, if this round is going to go longer, to consider Pincer maneuvering into Vysogota, but if we do, then at least the 1 power Vysogota will absolutely be the weakest card and will be a very easy, in fact, automatic target for the Yennefer Illusionist. Now, 1 Vysogota can technically boost the other Vysogota, but that's still only going to get a 2-point Vysogota, which is the same amount of power as the Volunteer we spawn in, so it's a 50-50 chance who gets hit with that damage from the Yennefers. So I think what we might actually do is we might go Kerack Marine first. Or what if we... Here's what we do. We get Vysogota, wherever you went. Put back Mutagenerator, because we're not going to have time to make this work. That gets us a 2-point unit on the board now. Boost you so that you're not the lowest unit on the board. And then we're going to save this leader ability chart, or order ability, hopefully. So that we can, once we play Vysogota on our next turn... I mean, they're obviously... Okay, well, now they're going to use this. But that would have obviously destroyed Vysogota. Okay, well, that's not really the damage I was expecting them to use, but it was all a means to set up more boosts for Vysogota and or have small units on the board that would be the recipients of the Yennefer damage instead of Vysogota. But at this point... we might need a Dunbanner. We might need to Dunbanner. Put it in the melee row, where we have lots of space to spawn those guys in. And this one will definitely get destroyed. This one will be tougher. They have 4 damage there, though. That's not insignificant. We could boost with Vysogota. It's a little bit late for that, but we could leader ability charge into something else to give us boosts as well. Yeah, that's where the damage is coming from. So they get rid of both of these, that is a problem. They get rid of just one of them, less so. Magic Compass, who knows what that's going to give them. Whale Harpooner. They move this, and then Triss, they might both be dead. They are both dead. That's very well played. That's very clever. At this point... I mean, the other problem is that Yennefer deals damage without needing to target something, so that's why we couldn't hide stuff behind Donimir. Wouldn't have made a difference, for the most part. And why Erland is still not super safe to play. But he is a big finisher for us, and this is going to have to be our way out of this round. So it's just a question of what do we do to make that possible? And we might just be relying on that immunity to make it happen. This plus, because you don't have immunity, using this to get something else. And Meve, I granted gave zero thought to who it was going to be. I just wanted to get something else that was going to work short term. And Vysogota in a short round obviously is not great. Meve is not going to have time either. Okay, so yeah, you force us into using Erland, and I'm not sure if he's necessarily enough. We're about to find out. He's not by himself, but we can then throw down Donimir, that is efficient, or Meve. We did put Vysogota back into our deck, so Donimir plus Vysogota might be what we're looking for in a round 3, but Meve is already inspired, so she is useful as well. Don't know that we're going to get Vysogota, especially because we've used our last leader ability charge, so I think we go Donimir here. Think we do that. And that is enough for us to win round 2, and very good bleed attempt from them. Okay, and this is interesting. Meve, obviously, as we said, is already inspired, so she can start her timer immediately. We do get Vysogota in a short round, considerably weaker. Same could be said with Dandelion, where, he works well with Erland and Archgriffin, but we already played Erland, and Archgriffin in round 3 with no prior setup is not useful for us. Dunbanner, however, if we can get this boosted from either Meve or Vysogota, is fantastic, because we still have a bunch in our deck here. So if we leave the melee row for them, that'd be ideal. Let's stump Dandelion. We don't really want Dunbanner in our hand. Okay, this is a backup plan for being the recipient of boosts if Dunbanner doesn't work for some reason. So I think, both of these are good the earlier we play them. But I think we go Meve first, to make sure we have time to benefit at all from this ability here. This one is very unlikely to be able to trigger. Okay, Magic Compass, this time they have 0 cards in their deck, so they will be able to choose whatever legendary Skellige card they would like that's not from their starting deck. And it's Lippy, which will, of course, get them their entire deck back. Okay, so, however, it did give us a little bit of time to safely keep Meve on the board, and so now we could do Vysogota, and boost up to help protect Vysogota. There's not much point in boosting Meve here, because she's definitely not going to get inspired, and even if she did, she wouldn't be doing it quickly enough. So, might just get a larger margin of boosts on you. And more armor as well, which certainly helps make you more resilient to future damage. We want to hopefully have at least one of these Vysogota survive, because then that means that we can still boost up Dunbanner on our next turn. So the question is, what is this? So they basically need to have their counter on this turn. Snowdrop is not going to be enough to stop us, at least. It's a solid point slam for sure, but it is insufficient to stop us from pulling off our combo. Okay, so now the plan is Dunbanner, melee row, immediately boost it, and any remaining charges will probably try to save this Vysogota. Is obviously super susceptible, but maybe we'll give a few more charges to this guy, a few more boosts to get him at least on 2 or 3 power, so he's not an immediate removal target for them. But we do this, and we do this, and get all of the Dunbanners on the board, which is a pretty huge slam, of course. And the question is, do we use more charges here? 5 points of boost is not enough to get this Meve inspired, and even then it's not sufficient. We have a lot of cards, which means this Meve is going to get a huge boost as well. And why don't we just throw 1 extra boost on you? Then with this Meve boost, you'll get up to 3, which means you're probably out of removal range, and we can save these charges to boost up Tridam Infantry and get damage from that. There's the Meve boost. Okay, it's Uma's Curse, so who knows what this is going to be. And Anna Strenger just does not have enough time to be of much use to them. Long round for sure, but basically Vysogota is a stronger version of that. And Vysogota has already had time to build up charges. So that means now we throw down the Tridam Infantry. And then we just boost the heck out of these guys. And if we can destroy Anna Strenger, even better. Take away some of their boosts. They don't think they can catch us, so they'll forfeit. Alright, going up against monsters here. And we'll go first. Okay, so we have Erland, which is ideally our round 3 finisher, and we can use Dandelion to give us more deck boosting to help support that, and Mutagenerator, more deck boosting there. But outside of that, a lot of 4 provision cost cards here, which can help us power up our deck boosting with Mutagenerator, but we'd probably like to have some bigger things than just that. And so Meve would help, although we want to make sure we also have the means to actually boost her, which, as things currently stand, I mean, we could always play her melee row, and that would make that happen, so maybe that's still fine. But it is still quite bronze-centric here, and without too many ways to boost, yeah, looking for a little more than just what we had there. But, why don't we go Mutagenerator first? Of course, we do have our leader ability, which we can use to fine-tune our hand further if necessary, but I think we're going to do a lot of range row plus Mutagenerator for the deck boosting. Okay, so Relicts, by the looks of things. For what it's worth, they do not have Sabbath, so if we do deal damage to them now, that would, well, functionally double down on the damage. We don't have a lot of that, though, and we did get rid of our Tridam Infantry, which would have been perhaps our best way to make that happen, but I think instead what we'll do is we'll prioritize the boosts, and I think we'll do that with Redanian... Oh, well, yes, we have this down, so let's go... Just double check real quick. How many 4 provision cost cards do we still have in our deck? Plenty to deck boost. Okay. And, you know what we might want to do? I think we're still going to do this. Melee row, and it will get out the other one when it receives a boost. But I am actually going to use a leader ability charge, the Pincer maneuver, to get Foltest out here and create additional copies. I think that's still worth it. If I had made up my mind earlier, I wouldn't have played Mutagenerator in this row, because it's going to get very, very full very quickly. But let's use this to get you. Or really, Radovid would have been a good idea as well, but that would have given us more charges, just that we can't really afford to use too many of these charges in this round. Otherwise, we're going to get our Foltests running out of space. So now let's use one of these, I think, to boost up this Foltest and give it Veil, make it a little bit harder for our opponents to shut it down, because what's going to happen here is that when this gets boosted, it'll create a couple of extra copies from both Foltests, and that immediately fills these rows. We will continue to create additional copies in our deck, yes, but we won't have room to summon them out anymore, which is why, you know, more leader ability charges wouldn't necessarily have been all that helpful, because it means we're flooding ourselves with these volunteers, which we don't really like. So I think what we'll do is now we will focus on the deck boosting with cards in the range row, and of course Redanian Knight works well for that. Okay, She Who Knows, they're getting carryover from that. So for what it's worth, she gives resilience to the unit with the highest base power, which could still be this 1 power version of herself, so that could backfire on them. Let's continue to go Redanian Knights here, and I think what I'm going to do is might still try to sneak in a Meve or Dandelion also gives us lots of carryover. Ideally, we would have played them in the melee row where we can guarantee that we get them boosted because they have inspired abilities. Ooh, okay, they do go for the damage to shut down this Redanian Knight. It technically was not able to move. So what I was hoping to do was put Meve next to these guys and maybe pass after that. And Meve is not yet inspired, but if these guys reach their grace ability, she will become inspired. And, well, that's probably still a little bit too slow to do that. So in that case, might just opt for a quick Redanian Elite or two here and leave it at that and then pass there and hopefully still have time for a bit of Dandelion and Meve action in a subsequent round. Technically, it does mean we're creating additional copies of this Redanian Elite because it was our first card that got boosted, not the Dun banners from Foltest, but it's not a huge deal here because we already ran out of space for these Dun banners to come out. So I think what we'll do here is they're going to generate, what is this? 4 points per turn. Just even after they pass, they'll still do that. We're going to generate 3, 4, 5 points per turn. More than that, if/when these guys have time to hit that grace number, which I'm not really sure they will be able to do. But we still are holding on to a lead here. So I think we will pass now. I think that is probably still in our best interest because these are mostly cards we have remaining. Okay, well, I mean, that'll do the trick, but if you want to use Erland in round 1, then sure. So yeah, they win round 1. They played what is the single best counter against us to do it, though, so I think we're okay with that. And it was actually their Ratcatcheress that had the highest base power, and their damaged one at that. So they do have some points on the board here, but not a ton. We would have loved to have gotten carryover on the Archgriffin. Of course, if they're trying to bleed us, then this is a good card to have because we would like to direct boost toward it. Then again, ideally, you'd keep it in your deck and boost it with Dandelion, so maybe we keep it there in our deck. We'd like to have something tempo-wise that can keep pace with this Ratcatcheress, and, I mean, technically Meve can do that, but that's a little bit overkill. Tridam Infantry did get some of those deck boosts. Don't really have much for Blue Stripes Commandos to do here. Pavetta would be nice to get. Okay. Let's see, we technically do kind of need to pass them in one turn here, because it would be nice to go Pavetta and use that to get all the Dun banners back into our deck for a bigger Erland in round 3, and or draw into a Dun banner and just get a huge amount of units on the board. That's probably just going to flood us and make us run out of space, so maybe that's not as good. If we were to go leader ability plus Radovid, that is enough. It does mean we're not going to have time to use his order ability, but I think we can still live with that. So let's do this, and let's put back one of our highly boosted cards. We play Radovid. He refunds us that leader ability that we used to get him. Ideally, we would have played him earlier in round 1 if we had the time to do it, but and then we could have gotten two additional leader ability charges from both copies of him, which obviously is great, but if we do that now, then of course that means we're gonna have to play another turn, and we don't really want to do that here. Not necessary, just a means to outpoint them here in round 2. Okay, and we draw into Vysogota. That would be a great card to defend with Donimir. So let's try to put some of our highly boosted cards back into our deck because we want to absorb those boosts with Erland. Granted, you know, I say that, and just about all of them are going to be those highly boosted cards, but we do get an Amphibious Assault. That's obviously nice as well. So order of operations here, we do want to get Vysogota out quickly, but he's very vulnerable. So I think it's probably going to be Donimir, Vysogota, and then use Vysogota to inspire Meve and Dandelion as quickly as possible. So, something like that. And we also, I mean, technically, might not need Pavetta here if we're just going to keep all of our Dun banners. We would like to get them in our deck, so we have a bigger boost with Erland, even if we don't get them out. I mean, we could do that with Amphibious Assault, but just have more units, so it means more boosts for you. They go Mushy Truffle. Okay, I mean, that's not too much of a concern. I think it is still Vysogota next. And just in case. Just in case they have some damage that can get through a defender. Okay. But that's more charges for Vysogota as they use the Golden Froth and actually miss some of their units on it, so that was a little bit weird. But now we'd like Meve, we'd like Dandelion. We'd like to protect them behind the defenders, probably. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll have enough room for all of them, theoretically. What do we prioritize between these two? Might still be Dandelion. Debatable there. Have admittedly not done the mental map to figure out what is technically the objectively correct answer. Unfortunately, can't quite get him inspired quickly enough, because he does boost the top card on our deck at the end of our turn if he is inspired. So that would be preferred, but even without that, he's still using his order ability to give us additional boosts as well. So let us just make sure we do that. And now, I mean, technically, Archgriffin would be the card you'd like to give the boost to, especially in round 1. That way you have the option of getting Archgriffin out, and you can get it back into your deck in a later round for carryover as a bit of an Erland alternative / backup plan. Obviously, we don't really have a need to get it out now because we can just absorb all those boosts directly with Erland. Now, once again, we are looking to inspire these guys as quickly as possible here, so let's try to direct these boosts onto both Meves. So she should have time for one of these proc, maybe two, but probably not. More relics, yes. This is probably the most dangerous card they've played thus far, though, because this is actually going to generate value over time, whereas all these guys are just point slams. So at this point, might even be Pavetta, just to get more units into our deck before we Erlands, and not much else is time sensitive. Actually, the Marines can help us boost Meve. Then again, we probably already have enough to get her inspired right now. Or at least once we play our next card, we will. So it's not a huge rush. So if we do Pavetta to get back the done banners, our deck is much bigger. We get 2 more charges on Vysogota, which means now you are inspired. And we'll just boost you up a little bit more just to keep you safe. And this is why I was saying before that Yurden would have been a bit of a concern, because we are going to obviously be focusing a lot on these guys. But we know that's no longer much of a threat. Although, yeah, we should make sure that we aren't igniable. So maybe we boost one of these guys up a little bit higher. Or Meve, specifically, perhaps. Or just use Kerack Marine to make that happen. That's an option as well. Sure. Let's do that. Or even, is there anything else we'd like to do with our leader ability? It's pretty much all our low provision cost cards here that have received the deck boost. I mean, we could do Dun Banner, but again, that's basically going to take up our entire melee row, so I don't really think that's of interest. So I think we will just do this. And just give that Meve a little bit more of a boost so that they are not all on the same number. And so we aren't risking an Igni. Make sure we have time for this. Might run out of time for the Vysogota charges. Or not. You want to be careful with Vysogota if you do find yourself running out of charges, because this will auto-target. There's the Meve boosts. This one's going to come one turn quicker. Yeah, if you're still actively trying to use Vysogota's charges at the end of your turn, it will randomly choose a target, and it will have the potential to select one of your opponent's units as well. So that's generally not something you want to do. So let's go Marines again here. I mean, unless we want to go leader ability, yes, it would give us 2 more points as well just to get the unit on the board. But then again, want to make sure we have the room for it. Won't even get the chance to Erland here, because they will forfeit. So there's a look at a Northern Realms deck for the new +1 seasonal event. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.